Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another interesting topic on Vedic astrology today. And today we'll be talking about the people who are dominated or influenced by Mars, and how to deal with them, because we come across all kinds of relationships in our day-to-day lives, as we know. It could be friends, it could be your spouse, it could be a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and even some relationships which are formed not by choice, by default, like your own parents, your brothers, sisters, your uncles, aunts. So and then we need to understand as to what kind of a temperament they have, and the best way to find the kind of a temperament is to figure out, as good astrologers, as to what planet influences them most, and then understand that planet and then deal with them accordingly. Because once we understand the person based on that great tool of astrology which we have, we can deal with that person and the relationship can be smooth. Okay, a lot of times we are very confused as to, this, I'm trying to do so much for this guy, but he's just not reciprocating, or he's not just responding the way I would want him or her to respond. And the reason is that, he's probably dominated by some kind of an energy which could be represented through a planet in his birth chart, which does not match with the way you're kind of dealing with him. Okay, so it's very important as to understand what energy he is about and what planet is influencing him, and then deal with him accordingly. So today we'll be talking about people who are dominated by Mars. So let's first understand what Mars signifies. And of course we cannot cover everything about Mars in one little video because of time constraints as far as the length of the video is concerned, but we'll try to do our best. So Mars, generally you'll come across, and this is, by the way, coming directly from the ancient scriptures. This is not any kind of imagination or fiction which you see on the internet by any astrologer. Okay, so Mars has been described in the ancient scriptures as having fierce eyes. So if you remember, we discussed about the eyes of Moon. He has fine eyes. He has been described as very fine, watery eyes. And we have discussed about the eyes of Sun, which have been described in the ancient scriptures as very bright, and as bright as wine. It has been described as bright as wine. So Mars people in the ancient scriptures have been described with having eyes which are fierce looking eyes. Okay, so the moment you see a guy with that kind of an eye, the first thing that should come to your mind is, oh, well, is he influenced by Mars? And now when I say influence, how do you determine influence? It could be through his Lagna Lord, which is Lagnesh, or the Lord of the Ascendant. It could be planets sitting in the Lagna. It could be his moon sign. Okay, if the moon sign is a Mars sign, which is either Aries or Scorpio, or even if moon is sitting with Mars, then he's being influenced by Mars. Or if his moon is placed in a nakshatra at the time of his birth, which is ruled by Mars, then again he is ruled by moon. So all these factors have to be taken into consideration while the influence of the planet is concerned. It could influence a person anyway. So because always remember, astrology is not cut and dry. It's not black and white. Okay, it's always a shade of gray. So as good astrologers, you have to be reading a lot from the ancient scriptures. You have to be reading a lot of birth charts, and then based on your own intuition and reading and knowledge and experience, you come to a conclusion. So when you see fierce eyes, first thing comes to your mind, is Mars influencing him? And Mars also has been described in the ancient scriptures as having youthful appearance. So he'll not be old, he'll not be an older person. So different planets have different appearances. Like Mars, like Moon has been described as somebody with firm limbs and nice lovely looking limbs. Sun has been described as a square body, so you get these indications what has been described, and it comes very true when you apply them to day-to-day birth charts and people. So he's been described as a youthful person. Okay, so anybody who looks younger probably than his age, and comes across as a very generous personality. Okay, just like Sun. So he has that Kshatriya quality. People who are not familiar with the 4 Varnas, which is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, please refer to my earlier video. So he has like more of a Kshatriya disposition and personality, where he'll be kind of generous, be youthful, and and will have fierce eyes. Now, as far as his doshas are concerned, doshas again come in the category of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So he'll be more, and why it's called dosha is because it gets enhanced to the point where it starts to give trouble, and it starts to be known as dosha, which is like a bad quality. So it's like one of the temperaments, a nature, which is Pitta. Pitta is fire-like, Kapha is water-like, Vata is air or wind-like. Okay, so these are the 3 major doshas as per Ayurveda. Basically Ayurveda, it's more on the Ayurveda side rather than Jyotish or astrology. So he has a kind of a Pitta, which is a fiery temperament. Pitta is fire, like I said, and also he's been described as an extremely fickle-minded person. So he's not sure of what he feels. Okay, well, this is the right way to do it, and then again this is another right way to do it, and there's another right way to do a thing, and then he gets confused at times. So that's one quality which Mars has, or rather people dominated or influenced by the planet Mars are. Generally you will see people who are influenced by Mars will have a slender waist. That's also been described in the ancient scriptures. Very unlike Sun, which has a square body, and very unlike Moon, which may not have a slender waist. It'll have beautiful limbs and have firm limbs, but not slender, definitely. So Mars, fierce eyes, youthful appearance, generally generous, Pitta quality, characteristic, that element of Pitta, fire in him, and then slender waist. As far as his limbs are concerned, he is okay limbs, very, very proportionate limbs, but then his limbs will have a reddish hue. Why? Because Mars is a red planet, we all know that. So his limbs are going to have a reddish hue. So how will they have a reddish hue? Well, maybe the skin will have some kind of a slight reddish, not red, but slight reddishness, a hue kind of a thing. And he'll be extremely energetic, because Mars is about energy, we know that. And very, very important, lustful. Okay, now a lot of astrologers say that Mars is about celibacy, Mars is about brahmacharya. That is not true. Well, this sloka, which is coming directly from the ancient scriptures, he has been described as lustful. Okay, and there's something you have to do your own research on. He is not celibate, he is not a brahmachari, he is lustful as described by the ancient scriptures. So do a little research. I'm not trying to contradict some of the other astrologers here, but what I'm telling you is about coming directly from the ancient scriptures. And he is the quality of tamas. So tamas we've discussed in our previous videos. People who are not aware of what tamas is and what rajas is and what sattva guna is, these are the gunas or qualities or characteristics, and they are classified into 3 characteristics, which is sattva guna, which is represented by certain planets. Then is rajas guna, which is a guna which goes after luxuries and goes after money and all that, which is characterized by certain planets or classified under certain planets. And then tamas guna is complete darkness, ignorance. And I will recommend people to go and refer to my earlier video on these three qualities or characteristics. But anyways, he's been described purely as a tamas, complete darkness, because tamas is all about darkness. Darkness is ignorance, nothing else. This doesn't mean that a person who is tamasic or is influenced by tamas likes to live in the dark. No, his ignorance, his mind, his intelligence is enveloped by darkness. Okay, so and why darkness? Because he's all about aggressiveness. He's all about, power. He's power hungry, aggressive, very energetic, and going towards his goals. But that's not the real goal of humans, as per the Hindu philosophy. So that's why he's in darkness. He's trying to achieve his goals through his energy and his forceful ways, and that's described as darkness. So anyways, that's another topic we can discuss some other time. So why we are discussing about Mars is because we come across people who are influenced by Mars on a day-to-day basis, and how do we deal with them? Because, say for example, Moon, who's a very easygoing and aimless person, if we try to talk that kind of a language to a Mars dominated person who's very focused and very energetic and very ambitious, it's not going to work. He and you will not connect well, and then there'll be problems, especially in a relationship like marriage or romantic partnerships that may not work very well. And if you talk to him about something different like a Venus, which is about passion and love and romance and sex, it's not going to work. Of course, he's lustful as well, but in a different way. He's more focused towards achieving goals. He's a warrior. He's a Kshatriya. So you can't talk to him like a Venus or a Moon, who is like more poetic and more tender and more compassionate. Mars doesn't understand compassion. So that's the reason why we need to understand about Mars and then deal with that Mars dominated person accordingly. Okay, and then once you've determined he's maybe a Mars dominated, try to get hold of his birth chart, and if you can confirm that, of course that'll be confirmed through his birth chart, if you can get a hold of that, and then you can deal with him or her accordingly, and then life will be smooth for you as far as that relationship is concerned. Okay, and then also once you're aware that yes, he is Mars dominated, then of course you deal with him in a way that Mars is going to be extremely strong in his day, which is Tuesday. So he's going to come across very strongly and very energetic and very ambitious and very lustful on a Tuesday, a Mars dominated person. Okay, in his own drishkarna or dekarna, whatever you can call it in Sanskrit. Okay, he'll be very strong. And if Mars is placed, if you look at the transits, other than looking at the natal birth chart, you have to look at the transits itself. So if in transits you see Mars is transiting Pisces or Scorpio or Aquarius or Capricorn or Aries, these are the signs when Mars gets extremely strong. So first look at his birth chart, whether Mars is placed in one of these signs, which makes his Mars or her Mars extremely strong, and then look at the transits if you're dealing with him or her on a day-to-day basis. Where is Mars transiting, how to deal with him. On those days he'll come across very fiercely, very strongly. So you can understand, he's been influenced by the planets which are transiting as well as is matching with his natal birth chart, and then deal with him accordingly. Don't try to, deal opposite of his characteristics or temperament or what he is influenced by. So that will make life much more smooth for you. And as we know that Mars gets extremely strong when he is in its retrograde motion as well, and also in the 10th house from the Lagna, Mars gets extremely strong because he attains Digbala or directional strength. Okay, and and then of course his exaltation sign is Makara or Capricorn. We know that Mesha, which is Aries, and Scorpio, which is Rishika, are his own signs. That's when he gets extremely strong. So and then if you feel that you can deal with him, it's okay. And in a romantic relationship, if you feel that your planets are totally opposite to his planets, then you might have to rethink about the relationships. And of course, like I mentioned, some relationships are not by choice, they're by default, like your own cousins, your brothers, sisters, children, parents. So you cannot just cut off those relationships, but learn how to deal with those relationships based on the information you get through this great tool called astrology. So hopefully you enjoyed this video on Mars dominated people and forming relationships with Mars influenced or dominated people. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic on Vedic astrology in my next session very soon. Goodbye.